going on? What's going on?
Entertain the geeky.
Hello. Entertain the geeky here. We've got Jason and myself, Chris, here to talk about the video games.
Yep. It's going to be a big year for video games. If everything is, coming out as they say it's going to come out,
Dude,
it's going to be a pretty big year.
That's the thing. Delays, we play a lot of Overwatch at my house.
Sure.
Overwatch got delayed for over a year, almost 2 years.
Yeah.
That was wild. Overwatch 2, that is.
Mm-hmm.
Insane.
Well, see, that's the thing. A lot of these games that are going to be coming out this year were supposed to come out last year and got delayed. So the thought is maybe that's the last time we're going to have to worry about that, and they are actually going to come out this year, but who the hell knows? Video game companies. And COVID hasn't helped, right? Obviously, everybody's been a little behind with everything they've been working on lately.
Right. I mean, thank Christ it's slowed down.
Yeah.
The COVID stuff anyway has slowed down quite a bit, and people are more normal now than we've been in years.
Going back to their offices and doing their jobs normally again.
Well, I think, I know this doesn't have anything to do with video games, but I feel like COVID was just the final nails in the coffin for movie theaters.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's been a few big box office successes, though, that have reinvigorated movie theaters, like Top Gun Maverick. What was that multiverse story? Everything Everywhere All at Once. Big movies that a lot of people went to see, and you can't deny the power that the MCU has still over the movie theaters. I mean, they do well, regardless of what's going on.
But doesn't box office at-home rentals count toward that, though, I believe?
Well, the MCU's not doing that anymore. They did that with Black Widow, and it blew up in their face because Scarlett Johansson had a contract saying that her movie was going to have X amount of time in movie theaters before it was going to be streaming.
and then she went to sue. And
yeah.
But I think that was streaming for free versus making.
No, you had to pay for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When they put Black Widow on Disney Plus, it was a premium one. You had to pay like $30 to rent it.
Oh.
Or own it or buy it or whatever it was.
I mean, I feel like that should count toward box office.
And it may. I'm not really sure how they calculate those totals, but
it's way less than if
you look at something like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I mean, that movie was huge, regardless.
I think it did $700 million, $800 million, a lot.
Yeah, regardless of money. The theaters not doing as well as they used to, it still managed to be a huge success for them. Sure. Same with Top Gun Maverick. I mean, shit, that was the biggest movie in the world.
Was it really?
Yeah. I know, right? It's so weird that a sequel that's 30 years late,
way too late,
did so well. But like I said, you have little things like Everything Everywhere All at Once, which came out right around the time that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness came out. And it was a better multiverse movie. I mean, for sure. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I haven't watched that one.
You should.
Is it really that good?
It's fantastic. Yeah, like it's a weird story about the multiverse, but it did a better job telling a multiverse story than the Marvel movie that did the same thing.
I mean, and that's the thing. I enjoyed Doctor Strange.
I did too.
I thought that was a fun flick.
Yeah.
Refreshing.
I enjoyed Black Panther as well. I thought it was very fun.
I haven't watched that one yet.
Oh, it's good.
I'm so bummed out about Chadwick not being in it, and I understand that that's something that you have to address when you're Marvel.
And they did a good job, I think.
Damn.
And that's the thing I was worried about was how delicately they were going to handle that whole thing, but I think they nailed it.
Will they be graceful about this transition?
They found a good way to transition. They found a good way to honor his memory while still, moving the story forward.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good. But sorry, side quest there.
No, you're good.
Back to the video games. Is there anything that you were most excited for this year?
Oh, that's a loaded question because there's definitely a few. Spider-Man 2 is supposed to come out this year from Insomniac Games.
Yeah, it is.
Which is supposed to have Parker and Miles in it. I would imagine kind of a Grand Theft Auto 5 deal where you can kind of switch between them on the fly. And I have no basis for that other than my own thought processes about, well, how do you handle two protagonists in the same story?
Right.
Well, Grand Theft Auto showed us a great way to handle multiple protagonists in the same story. When you're not directly controlling them, they have an AI algorithm that they follow. They do things, right? And then occasionally you can, I'm going to take control of that guy, and I'm going to do this thing because I'm excited to do that thing. I don't know if you played that one.
I've not played any Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Since like San Andreas.
Yeah. It had 3 main characters.
Okay.
And what was interesting about the way they designed it is certain heists or missions that you were doing, everybody had their own job to do, but you can only control one person at a time. But at any time you want, you could jump between to the other protagonists.
That's super cool.
Right? So you could essentially play all aspects of a mission using 3 different people.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they could also, with Spider-Man, it wouldn't surprise me if they had it almost episodic.
Yeah. Certain parts you're Peter, certain parts you're Miles.
And the stories kind of intertwine and lead up to this big...
Yeah, they did that with Ultimate Spider-Man back in the day. I don't know if you remember that game. It was a PlayStation 2 title.
I'm thinking of the PlayStation 1 Spider-Man.
Yeah, that was just a single. You're playing as Peter the whole time.
Yeah.
Ultimate Spider-Man had you playing as Peter and Eddie. So you were Venom and Spider-Man.
Okay.
And it was episodic. It was, you play a mission as Peter and then you play a mission as Venom. And occasionally those two cross over. You have a boss fight with each other where you play the side of it as Peter. And then in the next part, you play the side of it as Venom.
That's super cool.
So it was an interesting little story.
Okay, so
Spider-Man's with the fact that they're doing open world, I don't know that the episodic thing works as well.
Right.
It seems like it would work better with the Grand Theft Auto idea, where
Sure.
when you're not playing Peter, he's just got other stuff going on. He's kind of using an AI algorithm to guide him, and then you can kind of just jump into him whenever you want to.
No, that makes sense. Man, open world Spider-Man with 2 playable characters.
Yeah. Because both the first 2 games were great. I mean,
they were very good
honestly,
games.
I think Miles was better than Spider-Man, and I liked Spider-Man a lot. Miles, I think, just did a better job of handling the fact that it is an open world game.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you were playing it as Peter, when you were playing Spider-Man, it was like a checklist.
Right.
Here's my checklist. What am I doing today? I gotta get all these
this,
things. I gotta get all these things.
Yep.
Whereas when you were playing as Miles, it became less a checklist and more a natural. The side quest became a natural part of the story they were telling.
Yeah.
Because you have your little friend Genki, and he creates an app for people to request help from Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to do any of that stuff, right? But you can jump into the app whenever you're bored or whenever you're in between big story beats. You can jump into the app and do some side quest stuff. Yeah.
Hopefully they're able to integrate all of that then into this new.
I would imagine that the app thing will stick around because it worked really well and it was kind of a fun little distraction.
That's super clever.
Of normal people being able to say, I need help from Spider-Man.
Right, that's super clever.
Michael Ortega got robbed. Spider-Man, help me.
I think one of the greatest things that they did with the Spider-Man games recently, because I don't game on console at all anymore.
Sure.
Is put it on fucking PC. I was so stoked.
And most Sony games are also coming to PC at this point. I mean, it doesn't happen immediately, but it usually happens within the first year of the game's release.
I think that's something they're going to... With how powerful consoles have become, I think it's just a very short matter of time to where everybody says, okay, we're going to release this title on our platform and PC. Because we already have cross-platform play and all that. Mm-hmm. A console's a computer now.
Right.
The
problem is there's usually a secondary team that has to tweak a console's game code to make it work for PC, because you don't want a Batman Arkham Knight scenario where they released them on the same day and the PC version was just broken. Yeah. They ended up issuing refunds to everybody who paid for it. Because Rocksteady was trying to develop it for PC on their own.
Well, that was also PS3, right?
PS4.
Was that PS4 that was on? Okay, so we were close to PC gaming for the time, I guess, but not quite there.
Yeah.
If you look at Xbox and Microsoft, most Xboxes are running like a dummied down version of Windows.
The Xbox Series is just a computer. I mean, it even looks like a computer tower.
Well, the components that are inside of it are the exact same thing that are inside the PlayStation. So I'm like, okay, we're literally running computer parts now.
Right.
Let's just be done with it. Everybody can play together. I don't know.
And so like I said, I think most of those things will get released on PC. Mm-hmm. I just don't think it's going to be immediate because, like I said, it requires a secondary team to develop and tweak a game's code to make it functional on a PC. So yeah, I think it'll be with PlayStation. I think it's coming out today on PlayStation, and in 3 months it'll be on PC, or in 2 months it'll be on PC, or whatever.
I'll wait the 3 months, whatever.
Right.
Whatever.
But Spider-Man 2 is honestly just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, the Final Fantasy 16 is also supposed to release this year. Finally, it was supposed to release last year as well. And I'm not one of those people that didn't enjoy Final Fantasy 15. I thought it was a fine little game. It did the weird, road trip with your bros. I don't know if you played that one.
I did, so I'm not a Final Fantasy guy at all.
Yeah, that one. The premise of the game is literally you're going on a road trip with your bros because you're a prince and you're marrying a princess from a kingdom on the other side of the world. So it's just a road trip with your bros,
it's like the bachelor party, right?
Bachelor type road trip. Yeah. And then they get enthralled in all kinds of adventure and fighting and stuff because it's Final Fantasy.
It sounds cute, I guess.
Shortly after they leave their kingdom, it gets invaded and the king gets murdered. So Prince Noctis is now King Noctis, and he's the main character of the story. So then the game takes a couple of weird turns on you.
But he's off there going to meet
But he's still in a car with his bros.
Yeah. That's fantastic. That's actually
driving across the country.
That's hysterical.
It's funny. Yeah, it's a really funny little engine.
Do you think they meant for it to be goofy like that?
So Final Fantasy 15 was a recycled idea from Tetsuya Nomura, who was originally working on Final Fantasy 13. And that project got taken away from him because it was taking too long, and they ended up releasing a completely different idea to what he had. And Final Fantasy 15 was more or less what 13 should have been, at least in some capacity. So they just slapped a new number on it and called it something else because 14 was completely online. That one was developed for online multiplayer. Yeah, it doesn't have a single player experience. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was just something that Tetsuya Nomura did that they didn't like, and then they recycled it later. So
we like it now.
Yeah. We needed a mainline Final Fantasy game, I think, and they already had so much development done on what that game should have been.
That's one of those things I wish I got into the Final Fantasy shit when I hear stuff like that. Like, Final Fantasy has never been my thing. The turn-based fighting or whatever always drove me crazy back in the day.
It's not turn-based anymore, though.
It might not be. It might not be.
It's more of a Witcher-style action RPG now than a JRPG. It's not been a JRPG since 10? Yeah, 10. 10 was the last time it was a traditional JRPG where everybody just kind of stood there until it was their turn.
You stood in your line.
And then they would go up and they would do their attack and then they would come back.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the last time it was a traditional JRPG. It's more of an action RPG now. And when you look at the engine they created for the Final Fantasy VII remake that they did, that seems to be the general standard now for what Final Fantasy games will be.
Interesting.
Where, combat is handled. You still have codes and commands you can input and stuff like that to your team, but you can switch between teammates on the fly. You can take direct control of them, and you have full range of motion throughout battles. So dodging is no longer based on an algorithm. It's based on your ability to get out of the way of an attack.
I mean, that's right? That's better.
Yeah, it's better. It's very much better. It's modern. Now, that's not to say that, developers aren't still making traditional style JRPGs. I mean, Octopath Traveler for Nintendo Switch is a perfect example of one that it's just still a JRPG. It's great, but if you're not into that, I can understand why that wouldn't be something you'd pick up or you'd get into.
Well, that's been my major deterring factor from Final Fantasy for the past 15 years.
You're missing out, bro.
I probably am.
It's not what you think it is anymore.
It's not what it once was. It has evolved.
But 16 looks interesting. 16 definitely looks like it's going to be a bigger, epic kingdom builder type of thing. I'm not really sure exactly because the trailers they show for Final Fantasy games, while they do show a lot, it's all completely out of context.
Oh, I was going to say, I've watched Final Fantasy trailers, and they are so cryptic, it's not even funny.
It's all completely out of context. You're seeing people go, I can't believe you did that. And it's like, what did he do?
Yeah, and then
why did he do it?
Then it's a guy riding a chocobo.
Right, like who is that? Chocobo.
Chocobo. I'm sorry.
Did you just say chocobo?
I called it a chocobo. That shows how out of touch I am.
That's good. So yeah, obviously that one's going to be a big, epic single player experience. 14 is still very viable for them, so I feel like it'll be a while before we see another online only Final Fantasy game because they're still updating and releasing
patching
new content for 14.
How long has that one been out? 2 years?
3, I think, at this point. Okay. Yeah, and they're still supporting it, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it still has a very robust player base.
That's the thing that's so wild. How many different games there are and how many people still freaking play them. Yeah. That shit blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, you can still log into that old Star Wars Battlefront game from the PlayStation 4 era and find a match. It's insane.
I thought they were going to give up support on that one.
But you have to remember, you've got a blanket that's covering the entire world. Surely somewhere in the world, someone wants to play some Star Wars.
Well, that's what's so wild about it. So typically the servers are divided for regions. So you're not normally, like in the U.S., you're not normally in a European server.
I've definitely had European guys on Star Wars Battlefront
Not saying that it doesn't happen. I think as the game comes to end of life and stuff like that,
they widen the search area for players. Okay.
Because I know with matchmaking in like Call of Duty, that's one of those games where they will absolutely put you in a U.S. server or a European server. And then sometimes those servers are even divided with, you're East Coast or West Coast.
Sure.
Because there's so many freaking people playing it. You would crash a server if you had everybody going to the same thing. Yeah. So that's super. It's weird. It's weird. Blizzard, I think, did that shit the best, though. And that's why they have a bunch of patents on how their servers handle load. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But when we were looking at copywriting Conniving Cooks, we reached out to a copyright attorney. It was Peter Chu's brother.
Okay.
And he was like, he actually did a bunch of stuff for Blizzard. So this guy sends us his credentials. A lawyer sends us credentials. And he's like, this is what I've done. And it's fucking patents for servers and shit like that. And we're like, dude, we just want to know if we need to stamp a TM on this.
Right, trademark it.
Yeah. And he's like, no, you guys are idiots. You don't need to pay me money. You can't afford me. And we were like, exactly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, so we have Final Fantasy that you're gassed for. What else? What else is coming out this year?
So next big one that I'm looking forward to is the Resident Evil 4 remake. It actually comes out in March, or supposed to come out in March.
Resident Evil 4.
Yeah. Finally got around to remaking one of the games that most people said didn't need to be remade, because it's been remastered so many times, and you can play it on PlayStation 5. You can play that old version. Now, I think the remakes are less about updating the games. I mean, they are a little bit about that, but I think that's a small part of it. I think Resident Evil 9, I think, is something that's big, and that the remakes are a way to get new voice actors to breathe new life into these characters that are going to stick with it as we go into 9, because I think 9 is going to bring most of the core cast of characters back together. So Jill, Chris, Claire, Leon, and Ethan's daughter, Rose, I would imagine will be a part of that too, because we just did a whole 2-game side story with Ethan in Resident Evil 7 and 8.
How much money do you think they sink into like a franchise like this? Just redoing one game.
The remakes are ground up remakes. It's not
that's what I'm saying.
Not a reskin. It's brand new models, especially when you consider Resident Evil 2 and 3 were PlayStation 1 games.
Right.
So you have to make a whole new game.
That's basically what I'm saying. That is
new dialogue.
The amount of work that they put into that, and it can't be the biggest return. There's no way.
No, they've been huge. The remakes have been hugely successful for them.
See, kidding? And here I would think the bigger return would be like you do the remakes as like a snack or like an appetizer, and then you have here's number 72. This is what you really wanted.
No, I mean the remakes have been huge.
That's wild to me.
Huge ROI for them. I mean, yeah, they've been some of the best selling games of the months they've come out.
That's fucking nuts.
Yeah. Imagine being someone like me who played Resident Evil 2 and 3 on PlayStation 1 and then played some remastered versions when they made them on GameCube.
Oh, dude, I remember playing the shit out of Resident Evil 2 and having to switch discs.
Yeah. Disc 1 is over, put in disc 2. Yeah. But yeah, so being someone who enjoyed it the way it is, but has still continued to play games as games have evolved and become something else, the idea of, we're going to remake Resident Evil 2, that was huge for me when it was going on. Like, I was just like, I'll play the shit out of that game. I played the shit out of that game back then. I'll play it again.
Yes!
And I like the idea of bringing it into a modern gaming aesthetic, right? Where the camera's not fixed anymore. And, you know, you remember how it used to be where you had tank controls where you would move forward to move forward, but if you pulled the stick backwards, they would just walk backwards.
Yep.
Yeah, like changing up those kinds of things, making them more modern insofar as how other games have been designed, is a huge selling point for people who've been fans of the franchise since 1997.
Well, and that's something that could get a kid into the game for the first time too.
Well, yeah, and you also, you're introducing a whole new generation of gamers to what is some of the best survival horror games ever made.
Dude, I remember the first time I played Resident Evil was on Sega Saturn. And
oh my God.
Yeah.
That's a throwback right there. Sega Saturn.
And the first cutscene where you see a zombie, I remember being like, oh my God, this is so terrifying. I watched that cutscene recently, and I was like, that looks like shit.
It's terrible. It's really, really terrible, yeah.
But it was so fucking cool and epic for the time.
Yeah. But so 4 came out initially on the Nintendo GameCube. Shinji Mikami, the Resident Evil auteur, he had signed an exclusive deal to develop games for Nintendo GameCube. I don't know why. It seemed like a weird decision at the time, and it didn't last very long because the GameCube just wasn't viable for very long. But I guess he was attracted to maybe like mini discs or something. I don't know. Everyone thought mini discs were going to be the future. Oh, a little teeny tiny disc is going to be the future of gaming.
I think
even though we still have big giant discs.
I think he was attracted to a bajillion fucking dollars.
I'm sure they paid him a lot. Yeah,
that's what Nintendo gave him. They were like,
I'm sure they paid him a lot. But Nintendo at that time was trying to show that there were more than just the AAA kids style games that they've been making, like Mario and Zelda and Kirby and all of that. So during that era, they remade Resident Evil 1 from the ground up, brand new game. I still have my copy of that, and they made Resident Evil 0, which was a prequel game that starred Rebecca Chambers, who was part of the STARS Alpha team, the first team that went in to investigate the mansion, and they all got turned into zombies except for Rebecca.
Yep.
So then Resident Evil 4, they released ports. They didn't remake them, but they released ports of Resident Evil 2 and 3. And then a brand new entry in the series, exclusive to GameCube, was Resident Evil 4, which brought back Leon. He was, at that time, a Secret Service agent working for the president, and the president's daughter had been kidnapped. So Leon goes on this journey to some South American I don't remember exactly what the country was he went to. They speak Spanish, so it's some South American, Central American type country. I'm not really sure.
Somewhere where they speak Spanish.
But he has to go there and save the president's daughter, and then he gets embroiled in the whole townspeople have been infected by this thing called Las Plagas, which was different. That was another thing that was very different about the game was it wasn't the T-virus. Up until that point, the T-virus had really been the thing that you were fighting against. Umbrella Corporation had been the thing you were fighting against. And then all of a sudden you're in this weird Brazilian or Portuguese place, and the people have their minds still, they have all their faculties, but they're also monstrous. And if you blow their heads off, like a whole little parasite thing would pop out and keep animating their corpse. It was nuts. That game was nuts. But it was the first game in the series that introduced an over-the-shoulder, more traditional play style, shooter type of game. And I think that was the first game that led to the downfall of Resident Evil. Now, that's not to say Resident Evil 4 is a bad game. It's a great game. It's been remastered for PlayStation 3. It got remastered for PlayStation 4. It's a great video game. But 5 and 6, the two games that came out after it, leaned more heavily into the action of the story and less into the horror of the story. And I think that's where they lost their audience, because 5 and 6 didn't do as well. 5 brought back Chris, but he was all like buff and action star guy, And then 6 tried to have your cake and eat it too. So you had 3 campaigns in 6. You had one where you're playing as Chris that was more action oriented. You had one where you're playing as Leon that was supposed to be more horror oriented. It was not. And then you had one where you're playing as Sherry and Wesker's son, who was like immune to the T-virus because Wesker like injected himself with all kinds of chemicals and turned himself into a monster. So his progeny actually was immune to
normal stuff,
viral changes.
Yeah.
But that game did horribly. And Resident Evil 7 was the one that came out that took it back to the horror.
Went back to our roots, man.
Yeah, it was back. It put it in first-person mode, which was a weird choice at the time. But once playing it, we're like, oh no, this works. This is perfect, actually. And they continued that trend into 8. Now, they also released a little DLC thing to 8 recently that allowed you to play the game in a more traditional third-person, over-the-shoulder type perspective, which was fun. You know, I tried it that way. It was fun. Fine.
But you like the first-person perspective more?
I think I like the first-person perspective more for those games. Yeah.
I mean, I can see that, though.
Yeah.
I could totally see that.
But, so, again, Resident Evil 4 was definitely one people did not think needed to be remade. It was like, no, that was perfect. That was a great game. You don't need to change it or update it or anything. I disagree. I think it feels very dated to play it now. So I'm looking forward to a remake that is more in line with what the 2 and 3 remake were. And like I said, this is it. This is the last remake. I doubt they're going to remake 5 and 6. 5 and 6 were games, like I said, that were just
abysmal
for them. They didn't do well commercially or financially. So I think 4, we're going to ignore 5 and 6. I think 4 is going to be the last game that's going to get us into the place where, like I said, we're going to reunite everybody for 9, which is going to be a big, huge deal. I don't know what they're planning for that yet. There's no information. But
that's the super group right there.
But yeah, I mean, imagine a game that has Chris and Claire and Leon and Rose and Barry and Rebecca and Ada and Sherry and all of these people that we've met over the years in one story, right?
Yeah, all these people that we've met over the last fucking 30 years.
Yeah, the first Resident Evil game came out in 1998.
Yeah, so, that's fucked up, man. That's what you're like, dude. We're old.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So that one comes out in March. Very, very.
That's actually super exciting.
Can't wait for that. That's the next game on my list.
How was your God of War experience?
Ragnarok is amazing.
Was it everything you'd hoped for? Yes, it did.
Yes, it was everything I could have hoped for and more. I mean, it was. I've spent. First God of War game came out in 2005. Yeah, 2005, I think. So I spent the better part of 20 years with this crazy murder hobo, and I would have never, in 100 years, would I've ever believed. If I could go back in time and tell my younger self this was going to happen, he wouldn't believe it. He'd be like, no, that's not true.
His name is now Dad.
Never would I have expected this crazy murder hobo to make me feel genuine emotion, to bring tears to my eyes.
Really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But they did it right.
Oh, my God, it's so good.
Okay,
it fits so well into who he is as a character. Losing his family in the first series of games, he killed them. I mean, he wears the ashes of that mistake. That's why he's the ghost of Sparta. That's why he's completely, white. To get a second family, to get a second chance at that, he looks at that differently. He has to protect that. He has to keep that safe. He can't let that die. He can't let that fall to the wayside like the first one. So, yeah, I mean, it all works with who he is as a character. And it's just very emotional. It's just a very emotional ride. The acting is top notch. The people who played Thor and Odin are great. Sif is great. Thrud, the daughter of Thor, she's amazing. Angerboda, the other giant that you meet, the little girl, she's insanely cool. I just love every bit
just
of
all
her.
of it's well done, well written.
Everything about it was just very well done.
That's fantastic, because I know you were stoked for that one, and we haven't talked about it on the show since before it came out.
Right.
So I was like, I have to ask about that one.
Yeah.
Okay. So back to this year.
Yeah.
Anything else that is on the horizon that you're gassed for?
I haven't even gotten started. Yes, May it will bring us Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh shit!
The sequel to Breath of the Wild.
I totally forgot that was coming out.
Yeah, in May. At least if the date is to be believed.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah. Tears of the Kingdom. Not only
Breath of the Wild was so good too, man.
It is.
My God.
One of the best Zelda games I've ever played. So not only will it have it's that map, that same world that it created, because it's a direct sequel, but it's going to add in the Sky Islands. So
Jesus.
A whole nother map in the sky to explore. New powers. The Master Sword apparently gets destroyed very early on. by Malice, it looks like, the force that's generated by Ganon. And his arm, the arm that he's holding the sword in, also gets corrupted and ends up replaced by what looks like a guardian part, which gives him all kinds of new abilities. One of those abilities is time reversal, which I think could be an interesting...
Going back to Majora's Mask here.
So not time reversal in a way that we're reversing all of time. It's a moment in time we're reversing. So
okay.
I'll give you a couple of examples. There's one of the shots in the trailer where there's a big boulder that a moblin pushes down the hill at you, and he freezes that boulder, and then he reverses its time, and it rolls back up the hill and hits all the enemies that just tried to push it down to kill you.
Jesus, that sounds OP as hell.
Rocks that have fallen down off of the Sky Islands. There's one part in the trailer where he hops on a rock, reverses time, and the rock goes back up to the original island
rides
it came
the rock
from,
up.
and he rides it up into the sky. So that's something that we've seen him do. Another thing that we've seen him do is become like water, which is a weird one because it doesn't change his form, but it allows him to like slide between the cracks of things. So at one point we see him below a big ceiling of rocks, and he like launches himself up, and he pops up out the top, which I don't know what that is. I don't know how that's going to work ultimately in the game, but it looks fun.
So I bought Breath of the Wild, and I've played maybe 7 minutes of the game. I know,
tripping, bro.
I know everybody loves it.
That's 7 minutes. You're not even done with the tutorial area
Basically,
yet.
That's correct, yeah. Because I was like, man, I need to play this one. And then you start like, doing whatever else in life. Maybe before the new one comes out in May, maybe I should try to finish this one.
At least get through the story.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to finish the game.
Yeah, you can get through the story. I mean, I've spent 400 hours in the game to say that I'm done.
Right.
That's how long it took me to say I'm done. There's nothing more to do.
Yeah, I'm not going to get there.
Every part of the map has been explored. All of my armors are completely leveled up and maxed out. I mean, everything. I did everything. I got all the Korok seeds to get the little poop. It's a poop. That's what you get for collecting 900 Korok seeds in the game. You get a little golden poop that Hestu gives you.
That's ridiculous.
It's also implied that the Korok seeds you're gathering are just Korok poop, that they poop gold, I guess. Because they look like little poops. And his is definitely like a coil of gold, but it's definitely a poop. And it doesn't do anything. So you got 900. They litter the entire map with these things to find. 900 of them, to be precise. You only need to get 441 of them because they tied Korok seeds into expanding inventory slots. Mm-hmm. Once you've gotten to 441, there's no more inventory slots to expand. So theoretically, you don't have to go past that. I did because I'm a crazy person. But, you go through hours and hours and hours of gameplay to get all of that. And then when you get to the end, he gives you your reward. It's a golden poop. And I said, never again. Never again. Am I ever going to do that again?
You were like, yes!
I was excited that I had finished. I was disappointed by the reward. I thought it was going to be something cool I could use. But no, it's just a golden poop.
Yeah. Here's a super sword that'll cut the world in half if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So be careful with this one. No.
Poop. Even in its description, it says it smells funky. So like,
oh
it's
my God,
poop.
I would be pissed.
It's poop.
That's like the best way to troll a gamer.
They trolled the hell out of all of us. But so Tears of the Kingdom looks to use the same engine and world of Breath of the Wild, but like I said, adding in the Sky Islands. Most people are hoping that it adds in more traditional style Zelda dungeons because that's something that Breath of the Wild lacked. It had dungeons in a sense, right? The divine beasts are kind of the dungeons of the game. And then it had shrines, which are essentially big puzzle rooms.
Right.
So it had those kinds of things, but it didn't have the traditional, like, go to the forest dungeon and go to the mountain dungeon and go to the ocean dungeon. You know, it didn't have that traditional feel. So people are hoping that in the sky, there will be some of that more traditional dungeon crawling type stuff. I don't really care personally. I thought the first game was brilliant. I loved doing all the puzzle room shrine stuff, so I'm fine.
Yeah, I don't even fucking care. Just
they
give
do
me
that
a game
again.
to play.
I'll do that again. Yeah,
Nice.
125 shrines across that whole map. So
I'll sink another 400 hours into it. Fuck it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm ready. That's going to be one of those things where Doesn't matter what's coming out after that. I'll buy it. I'll pick up games that are coming out after it that I want to play. But yeah, I won't be playing anything else until I'm done with that.
That's the main squeeze.
I'm not one of these guys who buys games that I'm not going to play. And I'm also not one of those people that lets another game's release interrupt a playthrough. Like, Capuano and I were going through God of War Ragnarok at roughly the same pace. Mm-hmm. I mean, collecting the trophies at the same pace. Like, I would look every night like, damn, we're like right neck and neck in this game. And a week after the game came out, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet came out.
Yeah.
And Capuano just stopped playing. I was just like, just finish. You're so close to the end. Like, I'm seeing where he is. I'm just like, you're so close to the end. Just finish it.
You're like, fuck these Pokemon.
You're 1 day of gameplay away from just being done with it. Like, just do it. And he's like, no, can't. Gotta play Pokemon.
Oh,
and he eventually did come back to it and finish it. But I'm not one of those people. I don't understand those people. I don't understand people who start something that they don't finish, right? Like, you bought this game. You were excited to play it. Finish it, and then move on to the next big game you're excited about. God damn it,
you love this game.
Well, especially if the next game you're excited about came out within a week.
Right.
Okay, it'll be there. It'll wait. You bought it. It's sitting on your shelf. Finish what you're doing, and then you have something immediately to go to right after it.
Well, I think that's part of the thing. It's the excitement of the new thing, so you have to touch it. They got to touch it.
I mean, I am touching it. It's here in its case, and I'll put it on my shelf.
If I touch it, I mean play it.
Yeah, whatever.
That's all. That's what it feels like. Okay, time to go back to God of War.
Yeah. So yeah, that one will probably take up a ridiculous amount of my time. I mean, the first game took up 400 hours of my time.
Jesus Christ.
And I haven't extrapolated that to days, but it's a lot of days.
All of them.
Obviously it's not all consecutive, but it's a lot of days.
I mean, that's been over a few years. But shit, dude. That's 10 work weeks.
Yeah. I mean, Breath of the Wild came out in 2017.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't play it in 2017. I didn't play it until I think I got my Switch in 2018 for Christmas that year from Corey.
Yeah, I didn't buy my Switch till I think 2019.
Yeah. Yeah, it was either 2018 or 2019 when I first got mine.
It's my favorite console ever, though.
It's a great console. It's not my favorite console ever, but it's a great console.
I just think they're fucking brilliant. I like the portability and everything of it. I think they're adorable.
Yeah. I like the fact that they're putting old N64, Super Nintendo, and Sega Genesis games on there for me to play.
It's fucking rad.
I'll play all those games again. I love those. I just started playing GoldenEye the other night because I was just like, GoldenEye? Oh, hell yeah.
Done.
It's also got online multiplayer now.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, so like they took the concept of the couch co-op or the couch multiplayer and applied it to the fact that Nintendo Switch can match you with other players.
Oh my God. That's
so now
incredible.
You can play GoldenEye online as a multiplayer game. How is the
competitive scene with that? I'll bet that is fucking brutal.
Yeah. I mean, it's very behind when it comes to most modern multiplayer shooter games.
Right.
But it's still some ridiculous fun. I mean, it's a very simple interface. Plus, the N64 only had one control stick on it.
Yep.
So it only uses one control stick on your controller.
I think that's clever.
Yeah, it seems like it. Like I play with my Pro controller most of the time when I'm playing the Switch. But it seems like a game that would be better suited to playing with just one Joy-Con.
Yeah.
Because that's in the same vein as where one button is your reticle aim style thing and the other button is your fire button.
Yep.
So yeah, it just seems like it would work well in that way. I don't know if you can play it with one Joy-Con, but it seems like you should be able to because it only had one stick.
Oh man, I miss that game so much. That was actually... When we started the show, that was one of those games that we talked about being so much fucking fun.
Yeah.
Because you'd have 4 people over and 4 whole people would play it at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
On a TV that was this big. That's the shit that's wild. When they were tiny.
Don't be looking at my screen, dick.
I can't believe how tiny the TVs were back then, how we would still like play on them like it was a normal thing. Like, could you imagine going back to the 90s and showing yourself just your TV now, the fucking massive flat screen monstrosity that
my younger self would be like, "Are we rich in the future?"
Right. Holy shit.
No, we're not rich, but TVs are just not that expensive.
This is a standard size TV
this
now.
This is a normal TV.
You mean 17 inches wasn't enough? No.
Shit, my TV's My TV's like 50 inches.
That's what I'm
now.
saying,
I don't even
dude.
know. I think it might be bigger than that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, back in the day, it was a 24 inches. I remember the first time I saw it, I think it was a 30-inch TV. I was like, that is fucking insane. And that was like the step before you got into big screen territory.
Yeah.
Only your rich friends or grandparents.
My aunt and uncle had one of those big screen, like box TVs.
Sits on the floor.
That like literally you couldn't see unless you were sitting at the right angle, because if you're at the wrong angle, like the colors would be all off and shit. Like, yeah, they had one of those. It was goofy as hell. And like I said, I'm the kind of person who I like to sit close to the TV.
Yeah.
You couldn't sit close to that TV or you couldn't see what the hell you were doing.
That's too funny.
But I remember Mario being like this big on that TV, and I was just like blown away by that. I was like, Mario's so big.
My God.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that blew our minds, you know?
Yeah, how
And then flat screen TVs came along. I mean, look at your monitor.
No,
your
it's
monitor
insane.
is curved.
Yes.
Like, it's literally curved.
Yeah.
How did they do that?
Well, so this is what's crazy now. So there's a set of monitors that just came out by a company called Corsair, and you can literally bend the monitor. Oh my God. So you can sit in front of it and be like, yeah, I have a nice gaming experience looking at it this way, but I'm going to go like this so it encapsulates my fucking face.
So I have to literally look left and right to see what's going on in my periphery.
Damn right you do. Because that's the American way.
Right.
If you're going to video game, you're going to do it like it's everything to you.
But I would say those are the games that I am most excited about. Now, that is a small smattering of all of the games that are supposed to come out this year. Baldur's Gate 3 is finally going to get a full release this year, which I'm pretty excited about. But there's a lot of stuff that obviously we don't have time to go into.
Right.
But those are the big ones. Those are the ones that I'm really, that have been on the horizon for a while. And as we inch ever closer, I'm just getting more and more hyped.
So I say we do this then. Let's do next week. Let's do a top 5 all-time video games.
Top 5 all-time video games. That is going to take some time to think about.
Well, you have a full week. So
yeah.
You pick your top 5, I'll pick my top 5. I already know what my number 1 is.
What is your number 1?
It's Beautiful Joe.
Oh, that was a good game.
It's so much fun.
Forgot about those games. I never finished that trilogy.
No, never.
I only ever got the 2.
They did Beautiful Joe 2. It was only available on certain consoles.
It was GameCube.
I thought they made it for PlayStation as well. I could be wrong, but I thought they did that.
I don't remember it coming out on PlayStation. I do remember Beautiful Joe on GameCube.
No, that's where I played Beautiful Joe.
Yeah, that's where I played it.
And that game is fucking incredible.
It's a good game.
I have a copy of it, and I think it's scratched to shit. I need to see if I can salvage it. Because I was telling the kids about it. I'm like, dude, there's this guy in this movie theater, and bad guy comes, gets his girlfriend. You got to go into the movie.
Yeah, you're basically like a comic book superhero.
Yeah, and they're like, that sounds wild. I'm like, it's so freaking good. And then you're fighting shark people and all kinds of wild stuff, and they're like, Dad, you're making this up. I'm like, I swear to God, it's Beautiful Joe. Beautiful
How
Joe.
are they going to feel about it being 2D, though?
I don't think they mind that.
Okay.
So we do a lot of like retro gaming and stuff. So
Sure.
we'll hook up the old consoles and play those because I think it's more fun. It's a little bit harder on everybody because we're used
Games
to
were harder back then.
Yeah, and we're used to being spoiled with being able to move 17 different ways.
Yeah.
Well, that you have 4. Right. Up, down, left, right. Which one?
Do you know why games were so hard back then, though?
Why?
It was a tactic by game companies so that you couldn't beat a game after renting it just one time. You had to spend more money to continue playing it. And at the very beginning, it was because the only games we had been developing before consoles were arcade games.
Mm-hmm.
And arcade games were designed to be challenging to suck your money, to keep pumping quarters into it
Right.
the whole time and keep playing more and more. So early game development just used that model. So a lot of those early games that were so challenging on a console weren't challenging because they were trying to challenge you. They were challenging because they were in the mindset of, we have to get you to pump more quarters into the machine, but this is not a machine anymore. I bought the game. It's my game.
Yeah, so you're going to pump more dollars in the Blockbuster.
Then, as the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis gained popularity, it became, no, people can rent video games now, and we don't want them to be able to conquer a video game after one rental. We want them to have to come back and rent it again, or maybe even just go out and buy it because they can't beat it. Yeah. Well, it was a tactic.
That's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's a business tactic. But we don't have rental places anymore, so that kind of goes out the window now.
Yeah, the last Family Video there in Florissant that I knew about. Yeah, they closed.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not there anymore. There's one Blockbuster Video in this country that's still open.
Yes, in Bender. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know anything. All the Family Videos have closed. All the Blockbusters around here have closed.
I didn't know. Yeah, all of our Blockbusters gone. Well, Family Video was... there were way more of those than there were Blockbusters. But what's crazy about that Family Video is the space that they had, the retail space that they had was fucking massive. Yeah. And they actually ended up moving into a tiny space. And it's one that we were talking about opening a ETG comic shop.
Sure.
And we were going to use that particular space because it was small enough and cheap enough for us.
Yeah.
And yeah, itty bitty.
I mean, it's empty again now.
It is empty again. That would be a great spot to get because of the size of the parking lot and the Little Caesars right there.
Yeah, and the fact that you're right there at the front of that big neighborhood that extends pretty much all the way down Shackleford there.
Oh, yeah. No, that would be a wonderful place to have one. That's one of the reasons we're looking there.
Family Video, I think the reason they survived longer than Blockbuster is because they weren't just a video rental place. They diversified a little bit, and oftentimes the reason they were built near pizza places was because they would say, order a pizza and also get a video. They'll deliver your pizza. We'll give them your video to bring with them. Right?
Oh, yeah.
They did that with Marco's Pizza. I'm pretty sure they did that with the Little Caesars that was next to where the old Family Video used to be. So they weren't just a video rental place. Like, they tried to market themselves in a different way.
Which is smart.
Yeah. It allowed them to hang on to their business a little longer, but ultimately people just aren't renting videos anymore.
No.
Not with streaming.
No. Well, I mean, especially if I rent a movie now, I can spend $3.99, is I believe the exact price, to watch it in the highest definition that my TV can possibly muster.
Yeah.
And I never have to fucking leave the house.
Exactly. Yeah.
Such a homebody now.
I can order my food. I can have it delivered.
Yeah. I DoorDash my food. Some other guy brings it over. And then I watch my $4 movie, which is crazy, man. That's the crazy part because, dude, fucking Redbox a couple of years ago, I'd go spend $1.
Oh, sure.
And that was a talk that Tara and I had on multiple occasions, probably 5-6 years ago. Hey, why are we gonna rent this movie for $3-4 when we could just go to Redbox and spend $1? Right. And now it's like, fuck it.
Yeah, I'll spend the $3 for the convenience.
We're done. I don't want to go all the way up to that Walgreens.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I don't, condone this, but you can just download it on the internet now. I mean, you don't have to spend any money. I don't condone this action, and I don't think you out there should be doing it.
There is the act of piracy.
But it is a thing that people can do.
Oh,
and if you get you a good VPN, no one will ever know. So I'm just saying, just throw that out there. You don't even have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to spend any money, nothing.
Fuck movie theaters.
I mean, I like going to movie theaters still. I still do enjoy it. We went to the theater to see Black Panther. We went to the theater to see Doctor Strange. I think it's mostly Marvel movies at this point that draw us to the theater. Because even though Top Gun was the biggest movie in the world, I don't give a shit about Top Gun.
I don't give a goddamn about seeing a 55-year-old Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I don't care about Tom Cruise either.
Yeah. Pretend to be a fighter pilot.
Exactly.
I'm like, get back to your house of Scientology, you son of a bitch. All right. Well,
we'll make sure we get
top 5.
Top 5 video games of all time.
I think that's going to be
That's
magical.
A big list. I've been playing video games since Atari.
Yes.
That's a big ask, bro. But I'll try to whittle it down.
Yeah, 'cause shit, does that include arcade games, like stand-up games?
Most of the stand-up arcade games that were super popular that I would put on a list ended up on a console anyway, like Mortal Kombat.
100 times over. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a very fair point.
Yeah.
All right. You guys should go to entertainthegeeky.com. You can find all of our social media stuffs there. We are not on top of articles right now, but there is lots of content going there still nonetheless. So go there, get your content, and as always, stay geeky.